Kia ora everybody, I hope you're all well. This is a video about an army nurse who landed with the British Army in Normandy just after D-Day in 1944. The nurse was called Mary Agnes Hamilton. She was born 29th of November 1919 and died 16th of April 2009. So it made her just under 90, 89 when she died. She was born in Chigwell, Essex in the UK, and she trained in Middlesex Hospital, starting her training on the 20th of March 39 and finishing on 19th of May 1943. She commissioned into the Queen Alexandra's Imperial Military Nursing Service on the 6th of March 1944 and deployed into Normandy on mid to late July. I brought these medals from eBay 2010, and it consisted of Mary's medal set, her then fiance or boyfriend's medal set, a photograph album, and a series of letters sent from him to her. It's fairly unique. I haven't seen this set of sort of Imperia before, and although it's quite expensive at the time, I think it's well worth the money. So I'll show you some of the pictures that are in the album, and you can see a couple already have gone through of her time in Normandy, and then I'm going to show the medals, and then just do a quick overview of the Normandy campaign from the nursing point of view, and then show each of the separate pages from Mary's album. Mary, medal-wise, was presented the France and Germany Star, War Medal, Defence Medal, and 1939-49 Star. And her fiance, boyfriend, who rose to be a captain in Royal Sikhs, Captain Rene, had the Italian Star, War Medal, 1933-45 Star, and Defence Medal. Interesting thing about the research behind the set was, if it wasn't for that beginner sticker on the album that you see just coming up, stating Mary's date of birth and place of birth, I would have found that any research is really hard, because none of the records are available. There's no list or any list that I can really find of army nurses in the Second World War. So, and medal rolls can't really be looked up as they can with World War I in the middle. So, yeah, it was really quite difficult some of this research. But that date of birth was really important. So coming through there, you can see Mary's picture on her commission and her details. And just there is her birth, deaths and marriages entry into the registry in 1919. And I also looked up her death certificate, which gives a cause of death, location, and time of death. Another piece of interesting information was I applied for Mary's records from the MOD, as you have to, because it's been less than 115 years since she died. And they gave me some of her files, which included her sort of some basic information, where she lived, where she was born, when she joined up, her training details of her nursing experience she had, and then some discharge details as well, which is really very informative. And this very much coincided with the letters that I received as well in the pack that I brought, confirming her addresses and her postings from Normandy onwards up to Bruges, and then the postings to India, etc. after the war had finished. Also of great help was the fact the Gazette. It's very helpful for looking at officers, as opposed to junior ranks. They're not obviously put in the Gazette, but this gives notable moments are recorded, such as commissioning, becoming, getting promoted into substantive ranks from acting, and retirement and awarding of medals. So this is all very interesting if you're trying to plot someone's career. And Mary had a career after she finished her time in the regular forces. So just passing through now is a picture of Mary just before she left for Normandy with her dad. And then we're just going to have a quick overview of the D-Day Normandy campaign itself. D-Day was started on the 5th of June by airborne assaults into several positions in different Normandy, followed up by the landing on the 6th of June. Progress was made by the British Canadian forces, and day one saw them advance to just 3 miles south of Caen. Unfortunately, that advance was stopped, and despite being the first day's objectives, Caen wasn't actually captured till the 9th of July. Now, Caen only was less than 10 miles from the sea, so the Brits and the Canadians had a relatively narrow strip. Advances were made with a link up to the Americans on Gold Beach on June 9th, 10th, and a position was consolidated. The evacuation, treatment and evacuation of the injured troops were affected by this advance. From the June 8th onwards, hospital carriers took their turn picking up casualties from the beaches and taking them direct to hospitals in the UK. As the troops advanced, initially casualty clearance stations, which resuscitated, operated on and then evacuated casualties, were into use, with the first number 32 CCS opening up 6 days after the invasion. First nurses, or female nurses, on board were into Normandy on the 14th of June, with number 50 Mobile Naval Hospital. And after that, 5 general hospitals, numbers 79, 81, 84, 86 and 87, landed on the 16th and 17th of June, which was just before the series of severe storms which then stopped resupply for quite a while. And after the weather through Greta, further hospitals landed, including the 75th British General Hospital, and the one we're going to talk about specifically with Mary, the 110th British General Hospital, landing late July. Now, just talking about the general setups, you saw before the Harley Street locations where you see a big cluster of hospitals, and here we're just looking at a rough setup of a standard hospital, so surgical, medical lines set up, and where the accommodation was. There you can see, taken from a website, is the arrival of the 110th British General Hospital and other BHG's areas. So as you can see from the map there, the 110th was located with a cluster of other hospitals, had approximately 1,100 beds, and provided definitive treatments for troops. Here you can see some pictures of the unit diary of the 110th British General Hospital. I sourced this from the National Archives. You could buy like monthly parts of the diary. I just brought the one in July when they landed. It's not too much detail, obviously no detail around patients at all, which I assume is when they release the further details, it said they're on the front page. But it does go into troop movements, or rather staff movements, and from there you can work out when and where Mary landed. So from the diary inserts, it looks like they left Tilbury in the area they marshalled on the 20th of July. The nurses officers embarked at 1300 on the hospital carrier Duke of Lancaster, disembarked at 1500 hours and went to number 60 transit camp, and some were attached to the number 9 General Hospital. 22nd of July, nursing officers left for the hospital site, where they set up the hospital. So playing now is number 86 General Hospital. This was a British General Hospital which deployed in June, just after the D-Day landings. Although it was close to where the 110th was. It wasn't quite in Bayer, so it's a little bit further away. However, it shows the general scenes of what life would have been like in such an exposed position. So loss of tentage, not much protection from shells or any fire at all, but what can you do when you're setting up a field hospital? Far enough away to give definitive treatment and treat the troops. So the 86 General Hospital you see here had been on, I think, been in an African campaign, had come back and deployed for the Normandy one, and work in a field hospital or working in a medical unit is, yes, absolutely about, working on the wards, treating patients, but it's also admin. It's also making sure you're fit to do your tasking. And as you can see here, nurses collecting their rations, cigarettes and lollies, I think. But it's staying clean. It's getting as much sleep as you can, because you're no good to the patient if you're not rested in the best condition. So there's no soundtrack to this video, but I think it captures how it would have been in that time. Following this video, I've got a couple of free still pictures from general hospitals, not just 110th and not just the 86th, but a number of hospitals as well, just to get a general feel of what the situation was like. So a mixture of different locations. You can see from that map where I had the hospital locations, they would have all been around that area. And Normandy was quite a condensed area for quite a while, until the breakout following the Falaise pocket, in which case, as you can see with Mary's book, they moved from the field, wearing the field uniform at the time, especially when they went to Bulge, etc. Then they moved into a much more preferable hard standing original either hospital buildings or other hard standing. So then they moved back into their traditional nursing uniform as opposed to combat. So fairly sort of generic sort of photos from the time. This is doing sort of sheets, admin, with casualties coming straight from battlefield injuries, and the importance of resuscitation. So resuscitate with blood, with fluids, immediate surgery for injuries which are life-threatening. The closer you are to the front, the less definitive surgery you do, so you're just trying to stabilise and evac out. And then, obviously for some theatres, for some surgeries, you need to have more specialist units back in the UK, but a lot of the surgery could be done here. So a nurse, Brenda McBride, who wrote A Nurse's War, she was a sister who was in the 75th British General Hospital, just down the road from 110th, and a good example of the casualties that moved through. So in the beginning of July and the following 4 weeks, they saw 7,579 casualties, of which 4,535 had been evacuated to Britain, and another 1,000 been discharged back to the units. 205 men died. So the recovery rates of all men wounded in Normandy was very good. 93% of those who reached medical units recovered, which is, for the time, pretty staggeringly good casualty recovery rate. Alright, so just going to go through Mary's album now. I've just pulled out some of the more sort of war-y sort of Normandy shots, and then we'll just go through the pages one by one. So yeah, normally you can see the field dress there. Not sure if that's before I think that's before she went over, but yeah, these shots are, you can see the tent there is exactly the same as the ones from the 86, and just showing the admin that had to be done. There's no casualty shots. It's considered a faux pas to take pictures of your own casualties, so there's none of those in there. And these shots show Mary and her colleagues there. Next one is the Ronnie album with Mary going on to the standard ward dress. QA nurses were wearing that uniform when I was in the 80s and 90s. So yeah, those big saily kitey things on the head for some obscure reason, not quite sure why. Again, I think that's before they went over to Normandy. And then another before Normandy shot. So next one is that front page with the all essential date of birth, of which without that
yeah, none of the research would have been possible because there are no lists, and it's very unlike, like I said before, like First World War medals when you can just check the medal index to see, people. You can't really do that with the current setup. And I'm sure Ancestry.com does some valuable work when it comes to putting records out there, but they're a pain in the ass to deal with if you're trying to do specific research. So here we go, someone's wedding, not sure why. It has got some details. Obviously with a personal album and no one's there to explain it to you, it becomes a bit of hit and miss sometimes. The thing about this album, the medals, etc., it did make me, Mary died, obviously on her own, aged 89, and the lack of records is really, it's something that is a little bit upsetting. You serve and then you kind of just get forgotten. There's no real record of you. And for me, I picked these up on an eBay auction, and there was a fellow selling in Bristol. So it's obviously they did a house clearance at the end, collected this together, and then just sold it as a lot. So it's quite a disappointing end, really, just to be sold to a stranger on the internet. And it's not complete because Mary went on to serve quite a number of years until 1971 in a territorial or reserve officers unit. So there is a missing chunk, but what is there? It gives interesting insights. She kept hold of the album until the end of her life, and she kept hold of the letters to her boyfriend or fiance to the end of her life. These are obviously important things to her, and it gives definitely an insight to what it is. But yeah, so just scrolling through the album, you can see they've moved past Normandy now. They're into Bruges. I think obviously winter 1945 there, 44, 45. And I think they were detached off for a short while to a field dressing station, and then they came back again. I think they worked at a monastery for a while.
So the next couple of 3 pages are all about the winter of 44 and 45. The unit is in Belgium, Bruges, and here they treated casualties from a number of battles, including the Ardennes offensive. And like I say, Mary briefly worked in an FDS with a couple of her colleagues. But before that, they have a wedding on January 6, 1945, between all her friends, Charles and Diana, not the ones from the 80s, and a couple of pages cover this. There's Mary at the 32 FDS, and there was also some pictures of the locals around Belgium that she dealt with. So an interesting part of this photographic diary is the fact that it photographs something called the possession of the Holy Blood, which was taken part in Rouge since the 13th or 12th century, and is done on May the 10th. Now this is supposed to be a vial of Jesus' blood, and it's paraded through Rouge each year, normally on the 10th of May. But this year in 1945, after the city was liberated from the Nazis, then the Holy Blood was hidden throughout the war. It was paraded. The celebration was earlier on the 7th, and it was paraded as a celebration of the freedom of the city. So it's cool. Several pages there, and yeah, I was unaware of this as a historical thing. You can see as the end of the war came closer, not only did they move back into the normal civilian sort of pattern nursing, they also had time off as opposed to the constant grind of being on ops, and various beaches as summer winds up, and just generally relaxing after a rather hectic time. The photo comes to an end with just some more group shots of the personnel of the hospital in various formal and informal shots, with a number of personnel, some who are named and some who aren't. The final, it's a shot there, 110th at their last place in 1945. And there's a couple of loose photographs in the album as well. Some of the father there, and some of some random soldiers, and a couple of extra copies of the shots when they were in Normandy. Just coming up to it's a good personal shot of Mary herself. I think it's taken at the end of the war. Quite a good personal shot. So next are the following information of Mary, which I got from the MOD, and it's got sort of really good information about what she did after finishing her service. So like I say, after 45 she came out to UK for a short time, and then she was posted out to India, and then returned to India, and it's got her disembarkation details here, with Mary returning to the UK on the 10th of April 1947, when you see one of her forms has been stamped by the movement control in Liverpool. Mary then went to a whole unit at Netley and was discharged, rank assistant or lieutenant. So again, really good detail. Documents are really worth requesting from the MOD, as long as you can prove that the person is dead, which you get from a birth certificate. But yeah, other information is from the Gazette, and this tracks Mary careers afterwards. You see here, she was when the QAIMNS became the QARANC, she moved from sister to lieutenant, and it gives the dates there, and then it gives the various promotional dates after that. So ranging from 1957, when she was promoted to lieutenant to captain, 1965. In 1967, she was moved to the Territorial Army Volunteer Reserve, where she was given a seniority to major. And finally, the last couple are 1966, when she had the Army Emergency Reserve Decoration awarded to her. 1974, she was conferred the award of the first class of the Army Emergency Reserve Decoration. And finally, in 1975, it was announced that she was retiring. So all in all, just under 30 years of service, including 3 years as regular emergency commission. So it said on the certificate that Mary was a retired nurse, so I assume she did that for the rest of her time before she retired. Okay, thank you very much for listening to this. I hope it was of interest, and catch you later.